All right, let's talk about how you are missing out on a ton of money if you don't have your investments in the right things. So this is Smart Asset. This is an investment calculator, and you can find this at smartasset.com/investing or investment calculator. And this is a free online calculator. And I just want to show you like the math behind this. So most of the time when I meet with clients, they're getting on average about a 3 to 6% in their, even if they're hiring a financial planner. So they're like, my account's just not growing that much, and I'm kind of disappointed with my returns. So the last year, going back from now, so we're one year back from right now, you should have about a 30% return. And I just want to look at how this impacts your overall balance, your total balance. And we're going to put 30 years in here because I want to put 30 years in here because we want to be lifetime investors. So I want you to invest for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter if you're 20 or if you're like 5 or if you're 45 or 55. It doesn't matter. I just want to show. So I'm gonna play around with the investment return. So I have 6% in here right now, and the total is $57,435. So let me change this to 7%, and I'm doing this on my phone so you guys can see this. And I'm gonna press done, and it goes from 57,000. This is 10,000. We're going to start with $10,000, and I have that we're contributing 0 annually. So we're just putting in $10,000, and then we're walking away, and we're just going to let it grow. So after 30 years at 7%, you would have $76,000, which is better than the 57%. Excuse me, the $57,000. So let's go a little higher. Let's go to 8%. And I'm gonna talk about what you can actually expect. So now we've, just by going from 6% to 8%, we've doubled the amount that we would have over time. So this is just starting with 10. I want to use this. Some people are starting with, they may be building an account right now, or they may have a 401k with an amount already in there. Some people have $200, $300, $400, $500,000 already. And doesn't matter how much you have invested, you're still losing a lot of money. So let's just go through this mathematically. So $10,000, you have this at 8%. Historically, you could expect probably about a 12% over time. From the history of the stock market, it used to be about 12%, and now it's actually going up. So we're going from 100,000 to 132,000. You can see. Now I actually want to add, like, let's say that we have, let's go back down, let's say we have $60,000 in maybe a 401k or an investment account. Some people have this kind of money just sitting around uninvested, and maybe they're, they just have it either sitting in a savings account or a high yield account. So let's do the math. So we're going to go from 10,000. I want to give different examples for where people are at, and you can play with this calculator all you want. So smartasset.com, and just look up the investment calculator. So let's go and see the difference for 60,000. Okay. So at 9%, it's going to be, let's go back to that 6%, because this is what I commonly see for people who are investing. They get a 6%. So they have over, without adding anything else, $60,000. They are going to have $344,000 in their account after 30 years. So let's just play with this percentage, and let's just go up and see the difference in if we add a percentage point. So 6%, 7%, this actually isn't very high of a percentage, and you should expect higher than this if you're invested in the right thing. So this turns into $456,735. Let's just keep going up and see. So that's at 7%. Let's put this at 8%, and just impacting. So watching the numbers, we have 60,000 invested. We are not adding another penny. We're just putting this in something that's returning 8%. We're doing it for 30 years. So it goes from 456 to 603. So that's about $150,000. I would expect that if you're invested in the right thing, that you should get a higher percentage than that. So let's continue to go up and just look at we're going to go from 603,000 to 796,000. That's just, we're not doing anything differently. We're not adding any more money. we're just putting it up 1% higher. And you might say, Lisa, where's the, what can I expect? So we're going to go up to 10% now. What can I expect? What's a rate of return that I can expect? And I want you to be able to invest as much as you can. So 60,000, I'm just kind of showing middle of the road here, but we're going to go from 796,000, and then that takes us up to $1 million just by 1 percentage point. We're not adding anything else. So I'm going to keep going up a little bit because I believe that you can get higher than this if you're allocated correctly. So let's go to 11%. So we're at just over 1 million. And that's going to take us to 1.3. So $1,373,000 at just investing. This is the magic of where this goes if we have this invested correctly. So this would be a consistent return of over 30 years. Now, in reality, you're going to have some years that are higher than others. Okay, we're going from 1.3 to 1.7, so that's quite nice. And let's just for fun, let's just put let's go to 13%. From 1.7, so that takes us to 2. Now, what if you were to add like another like $5,000 just per year? This gets really fun because most people are all over the scale. So they could be starting with just starting their investment accounts, or they could have 60,000 invested, or they may be contributing to a 401k that they've had for a while. So let's look at different numbers. Let's go back down. I just want to show the power of, if I'm starting out at like 6%, which is unfortunately commonly what I see. Let's put 100,000 in there, just saying somebody has $100,000 in their 401k right now and they're getting 6%. So over 30 years, that's going to turn into 574. That's not actually a ton of money, especially if you want to retire. So we're going to skip a little faster here. So we're going to go up. Let's take it to 8%. So just to kind of show you, so now we've doubled that money with just 2 percentage points higher. And I definitely think you can get that. So let's go up to 10% just for fun. And so it goes from $1 million to 1.7, and that's if we don't add anything else. And you can see the yellow here is the amount that we've earned. So the blue is like how much have we contributed, and then how much interest have you earned, and it just shows this as a scale, so in a pie chart. And then and then it has a breakdown down here if you're interested in this. And this is just, I'm on my phone on this. You can look at it on a laptop, iPad, phone, whatever you have. And so as you go up in percentage points, it massively impacts the amount that you have. So now if we had $100,000 and did not add another cent, but we were able to go from 6% to just a 12%. Now in the mastermind, we average the last 2 years, we've gotten 30 and 32%. And now that's not guaranteed. I can't guarantee any rate of return, but definitely higher than 3 to 6%, definitely higher than 12% because we make money when the market goes up and we make money when the market goes down. So let's say just for fun, you added $5,000 just a year. Okay, so I'm going to put $5,000 annually. We're going to start with this $100,000 and we're at 12%. That turns into $4 million. Just the only thing we've changed is we're adding another $5,000 annually at the 12%. Now, I think you can have a higher percentage than 12, so I'm going to put this at 13, which is incredibly conservative in my book, and that turns it to $5 million. So you could definitely live off of that. You can see how this adds up over time. So if we had, let's say, I meet a lot of people that might start out with $250,000 in their 401k. That turns into, with just getting a 13% rate, which I think you can get higher, you have $11,244,000 and almost $245,000 after 30 years. It's really, really important for you to be allocated correctly. And what I mean by that is that you put your money in what is it's going to get you the highest rate of return. It's going to have the safest, like the lowest risk and also the lowest cost. And just by getting a higher percentage rate, you can actually make this a huge impact. And so this is why we are so strongly talk about the set and forget it system, because it matters. It really matters to your comfort. And this is not made up numbers. Like, this is just a calculator I got off the internet. I happen to like this one because it has cool colors. But this is just like, you can play around with this. So if I started with 250,000, you might say, oh my gosh, Lisa, that's so much. I don't have that. But even if I go 50,000 and I'm adding money at 30%, I still have 3.4 million, which allows a lot of people to retire. Now you might say, I want to retire earlier. I don't want to wait 30 years. So all you would do then is you would invest more. So we could take up this additional contribution. We could say, all right, let's put in 10,000 a year. We'll double that amount. So that still turns into, and if we could do 20 years now, you're not going to stop investing the day that you turn 65. So if you did this at a 13% rate, you can either contribute more or you can get a higher rate of return, and you still have enough to retire. So essentially, I want you to have the highest savings rate possible. And I also want you to play around with this calculator. The most important thing that you can do is to get the highest rate of return. Now, I'm not into risk at all. I'm into, Warren Buffett says, number one rule is don't lose money. And rule number two is C, rule number one. And so really, I like to play around with calculators like this because I really want to say, well, 30 years, I'm not going to stop investing the day that I turn 65. That's kind of a fallacy that you are going to go out and blow all of your money the day you turn 65. You're not going to do that. You're going to allow it to continue to grow. And so if you can add, if we can put 150,000, you can play with all of this. That's actually pretty amazing. You start out with 150,000, you add 10,000 annually, you have a 13% rate of return, which I think is pretty conservative, and you end up with 8,799,000. And so that is incredible. That number is really high. It's going to allow you to have a really comfortable retirement, and that's what we're after. We want a really good margin of safety. We want this to work for you. We don't want you to be living in an apartment with the lights off, with eating tuna fish. So we do not want that as our goal. We want a comfortable retirement. So that looks like you having plenty of money to go on vacations, to go on trips, but and spend time with your family, pursue your passions. But it matters two things. You need to be an investor for the rest of your life so you can get these numbers. Is 8 million, and it's almost like 9 million, but we'll just call it 8.8 million, starting with 150,000 and adding 10,000 annually, getting a 13% rate of return. It's really, really important that you get the highest rate of return because everything starts compounding. And that's where this yellow line starts to go up really high because we have compounding on our time. So I want you to be a life investor. I want you to be a lifer. I want you to invest for the rest of your life because look at this pie. So look at the total amount you've contributed is 150 initially. A starting amount is 150, and then you've only put in another 300,000. The total interest earned is 8,349,000 and some change, right? 377. So you've only put in this little slice of the pie, but look at the total balance that you have to live on. So we want to live on a portion of our wealth, but it's really, really important that we get the highest rate of return so that our money can compound over time. And if you don't do this, then you end up making you have so much less in your account to work with overall. So you want your overall balance to be as high as possible so that you have as much money and you can withdraw comfortably. We don't want to have this mac and cheese retirement. Now you might like mac and cheese, but probably not every single day. So I want you to play around with this calculator. Again, it's at smartasset.com and then /investment calculator. And you can use this. It's a free resource, but I want you to play around with this because if somebody is getting, let's say they start with 150, and even if they're putting in 10,000, if they're only getting that 6% return, which unfortunately I commonly see, what is that costing you? So you're going to have 1.6 million instead of 8 million. And that's after 30 years. that's going to matter. So even if you're getting a 7% return instead of the higher amount that you could be getting, because you're not changing anything, you're still contributing the same amount. You're just, the only thing that changes is how much am I getting on my investment. So at 7%, you're going to have 2 million instead of 8 million. I'm going to guess that most people here would rather have 8 million than 2 million because you just have choices. You can set up a legacy. You can teach your kids how to invest. You can completely change your lifestyle just by having a higher rate of return. And I am not talking about risk because I am super low risk. I'm super high in returns, but I want to have this super low risk, and we want to have the cost really low, and we want to have our returns really high. And that's totally possible. So just by having a higher rate of return, you're maxing out the total amount that you're going to have to use for the rest of your life. So absolutely one of the most important things that I teach is that you want to have the highest rate of return possible because it matters to the tune of millions of dollars. Now, you don't want to go to work every single day and contribute money to this and then have a lower amount when you could have the exact same figure. So all I'm changing is the rate of return. And that's the only thing that's this. So 150,000 still, you're still contributing 10,000 extra. But if I change this to 13%, which I think is quite, oh man, I would say that's pretty reasonable, actually, with the way things are going in the market. And like I said, the mastermind members are getting a 30% return for the past 2 years. Can't guarantee that for the rest of forever, but that does make it higher. So your overall returns are all averaged together over time. So that's going to make your 3, your 5, your 7, your 10-year returns higher. But the only thing I'm changing here is this percentage. That's the only thing I'm changing. And it goes from 2 million to 8.7 million. That's a huge difference just by changing the rate of return. So every percentage higher that we can get, we absolutely want to have that. Now, this calculator is not going to allow me to enter any more than 30 years, but a lot of you who are watching this are going to have more than 30 years to grow your money. And so I want you to play around with this calculator, put in the starting amount that you have and play with the rate of return and see how much you could have with a different or a higher rate of return, and how this climbs up and how much you are investing. This is like the secret of the wealthy. This is how people get wealthy, which is investing and getting the highest rate of return.